Hey.
Hi.
Hey.
Hey.
Good afternoon, you guys.
How you
How
doing?
you doing?
Okay, happy belated Mother's Day.
Ah,
Thank you. Thank
You all enjoy yourselves?
you. I rested.
good. That's important. I got rested too. My daughter came home out of town and she cooked for us, and gave us all pedicures and everything. So,
Oh, you doing well today, huh?
well, let me tell you, she learned that when she was a young girl, when she wasn't making money, when she didn't make her own money, and everyone adored her, and we all gave her money to buy other people gifts. And she learned that she could keep her money in her pocket if she gave service gifts. And so
Right.
I told her, I said, now you make a lot of money. I'm not counting your dollars, but I can go to the spa for this. These services, just joking. But it was nice to have her home.
Well, that's good. That's good. I'm on mute, but I'll be ready.
Okay. How you doing, India?
I'm doing good, just hanging in here, trying to keep up. It's been crazy.
Oh my God, so crazy.
Yeah.
I got like 3 lists of things I got to talk to you about.
Just 3. Hey, just 3.
3 lists, not 3 things.
That's it. Just 3 lists. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Actually, now that I'm on here, I got to talk to Chairman Taylor. I got to talk to Danielle. This is good. I got all my folks at the same time.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It looks like I am going to call the meeting to order. It appears from who I see on the Zoom that we have a quorum. So I will begin. I'm going to start with calling the roll. Eddie Taylor.
Here.
Danielle Sidnor.
Here.
Stephen Cavanis.
Here.
Heidi Gullett.
Here.
Randy McShepard.
Here.
India Pierce Lee.
Here.
Reverend Kenneth Chalker.
Here.
Levine Ross.
Here.
Marsha Maccabee. I see Marsha's on, but she's muted. Cordell Stokes.
Yeah.
Okay, I see he's here too. Janice Contreras.
Here.
Yanela Sims. Okay, I don't believe she's here yet. Sheila Wright. Oh, Yanela?
Yeah,
Oh, Marsha?
No, this is Marsha. Yes, sorry, I was muted. I'm here.
Oh, it's okay, yes. Habiba Grimes.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm here.
Good afternoon. And I'm sorry, Yanela once more. I don't think she's here yet. Okay. Sheila Wright, I see you.
Here.
And Rabbi Joshua Caruso, as well as Victor Ruiz, both said they will not be able to join us all day, or today, excuse me. Okay, that's everyone. I'm going to start, as I always do, with a moment of silence and reflection, and I'm going to ask you to indulge me a little bit on this one. It's a little longer than previously. I'd like to take a moment to reflect upon the recent police killings across America. On April 20th, a sign of progress was made when the jury convicted Derek Chauvin of murdering George Floyd. However, this promise of progress was quickly overshadowed by further bloodshed at the hands of law enforcement. In fact, in the 24 hours following the Chauvin conviction, 6 people were fatally shot by police officers across the United States. Included in those lost was Micaiah Bryant, a 16-year-old girl from Columbus, Ohio, who was fatally shot by an officer when police were dispatched after someone called 911 and reported being physically threatened. Brian's family has reported that Makia was the one who called the police for help, saying someone was fighting outside of her home. Body camera footage appears to show an altercation between Makia and two other people. The video begins with an officer getting out of his car, taking a few steps towards a group of people in the driveway. Brian starts swinging a knife at another girl, perhaps a woman, who falls backward. Brian then charges at another girl or woman who's pinned against a car. And from a few feet away, with people on either side of him, the officer fires 4 shots at Brian, and she slumps to the ground. In the video clip, you can hear a man immediately yell at the officer, "You didn't have to shoot her. She's just a kid, man." Andrew Brown Jr., a 42-year-old man, was also shot and killed in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, when deputy sheriffs tried to serve search and arrest warrants. Mr. Brown was shot dead in his car as he tried to drive away. An autopsy commissioned by his family said Brown was shot 5 times, including once in the back of the head. Family members who were privately shown a portion of the body camera video says Brown was trying to drive away when he was shot. His killing sparked outcry, and 7 deputies have been placed on leave as a result. In late March, 13-year-old Adam Toledo was fatally shot by a Chicago police officer. A video sequence was released which showed Adam appeared to have a gun. However, the video also shows that Adam was shot moments after he dropped this alleged gun and after he complied with officers' commands to place his hands above his head. As mentioned in our last meeting, days before the Chauvin verdict, 20-year-old DeWante Wright was killed by a police officer after being stopped for driving with expired license plates and having an air freshener hanging from his rearview mirror. The officer alleges she intended to fire her taser, and instead she pulled her service weapon. The officer has now been charged with second-degree manslaughter. In December of last year, 23-year-old Casey Goodson was fatally shot 6 times, 5 in the back, by a Franklin County Sheriff's SWAT deputy. Relatives say Casey was opening the door to his grandmother's house after returning from a trip to the dentist when he was shot. The deputy, a 17-year veteran of the Franklin County Sheriff's Office, was finishing up an unsuccessful search for a fugitive as part of the U.S. Marshal's Office Fugitive Task Force. As witnesses heard the deputy command the victim to drop his gun, and when he did not, the deputy shot him. Casey's family, however, says that he was holding a sandwich and not a gun. The family has also pointed out that Casey has a license to carry a firearm, and as we know, Ohio is an open carry state. The Franklin County Sheriff's Office I encourage.
You did freeze for a little while. Sorry about that. You may want to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just, each of these deaths illustrates the tragic outcomes of interactions between law enforcement and Black and Brown Americans. I encourage us to reflect on those interactions and the unnecessary loss of human life. As we continue our work, we must find ways to reduce the use of lethal force while protecting the lives of all involved. Let's take a moment of silence and reflect upon these lives lost. Okay, again, I thank you for indulging me. I know that was a little lengthier than normal, but I felt it was critically important. Public comment. Since our last meeting, we have not received any public comments submitted via email to equity@cuyahogacounty.us. County Executive Budish, I see that you're on the Zoom. I'd ask you to unmute. And
before you get started, County Executive, so a couple of things with public comments, folks. And there's no need for me to bring this up in the message from the chair. We did create some language, still working through it, that will be utilized on the site to deal with public comments. So we think we've captured the concerns raised by folks on this call, that we certainly want the public involved. We want them to comment. We want the comments to be appropriate and tasteful and all the things that are necessary. But so there will be language that tells folks that their comments are for public viewing, but they have to comport, if you will, with what we think are the right approach in terms of offering feedback. The other thing before the county executive gets started, look, this is your forum. This is a citizens council. So if anyone has any response, visceral or otherwise, to the comments made by Clerk Byrd just a moment ago, in the moments of reflection and the moment of silence, please, here's an opportunity if anybody wants to respond in any way. Remembering, of course, this is a public forum. Not that there is a need, but just wanted to open up the opportunity.
I'd like to make a comment about Clerk Byrd's opening. As I always am, I'm very appreciative of what she has to start our meetings. And I thought today's, she says extended time, I thought very appropriate. And it certainly for myself, it's heart sickening to hear about these shootings time and time again, and the seemingly irresponsible response by established communities across this country and political leaders. And I could not agree more that we need to do everything we can as our CACE group to encourage, promote, suggest, articulate as strongly as we can the need to address systemic racism in our country and certainly in our county. So I'm appreciative of Clerk Byrd and what she has brought to us today.
Thank you. Any others? Okay, well, hearing no additional comments, please, County Executive.
Hey, thank you, Chairman. It's good to see all of you again. I'll just make my remarks about the major event that happened last week, which was our opening of the diversion center here in Cuyahoga County. It's the first diversion program in Ohio. It's not the first in the country, but the first in Ohio. And I believe that it will completely transform criminal justice here in the county. And it reflects a number of the comments that were made in your report last December. In my view, it's going to be truly culture change, and it's really equity. I mean, we all know the overabundance of African Americans and other minorities in the jail, and this is a path for people to be diverted out of the criminal justice system. So what happens is we have been training, we have a contract with the Adams Board. They're training police officers throughout the county as to who can be diverted. People who would be appropriate for diversion will be people who have mental health and addiction issues. Typically, those people have been taken to the jail, even after very minor offenses, whether it be trespassing or making too much noise or whatever it might be. There's really no other place for the police to take people, so they take them to the jail. And when they go to the jail, they get booked, which gives them a criminal record, which can impact their prospects for getting a job for the rest of their lives. It can impact their family. It can impact their housing. It can impact everything. So the goal is for people who are there, who are suffering from either addiction or mental health issues, instead of going to the jail, they can be taken to this diversion program. The police, as I said, are being trained. They're being supported by a 24/7 devoted telephone line, which the police can use at any time It'll be staffed by Frontline Services, which is an established nonprofit here in Cuyahoga County, experienced in these sorts of things. The frontline folks will be able to advise police in real time what to do and who to and where they can be taken. The Oriana House currently is being the group that will run the diversion program. The diversion center is a building on 55th Street in Cleveland. And while that's not the most ideal location, it is okay. Reason I say it's not the most ideal location is because it's harder to get to. If you're a police officer in Bay Village or Euclid, it's not the easiest to get to 55th Street. So, and we want to make this easy for police. We're looking at other facilities, in particular, the old juvenile detention center, and hopefully we'll be able to open there. It's more expensive. It'll be a $20 million project, but right now we're currently meeting with foundations and corporations to help us with the fundraising. And we're optimistic we'll be able to move after 2 years into the juvenile detention center, redone, of course, to be a diversion program. The diversion center will be able to help people, as I said, with addiction or mental health issues for about up to 9 days. It'll help stabilize them. It'll help initial treatment. And then they'll be referred to existing organizations in the community that can provide further assistance over time. They'll also have the benefit of other county services like our homeless program for people who need housing, our SNAP program for food stamps, our job training programs, and the like. Again, I will be able to help. Right now, this initial building will has room for 50 beds. We anticipate this will be able to help about 500 people over the course of a year with the recycling through. And in the new facility, assuming we're able to do that, we'll have about 150 beds, which is what our consultants indicate is really what would be appropriate. So we're very excited. It really will transform criminal justice. It'll allow people who are suffering from addiction and mental health to be treated as an illness as opposed to a criminal. And the goal is it's really to break the cycle of recidivism that occurs now. Somebody goes to the jail, they're there, they get processed, they may be there for a day, a week, a month, and then come out, and shortly after that, they're back in the jail. And this happens over and over again. We've patterned this program after there's a few other very successful diversion programs around the country. As I said, none in Ohio, but around the country. And there, the recidivism rates have gone way, way down. So we're very excited about this prospects for this program. And I do think it's clearly an equity issue in light of who we serve. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions if somebody might have one, but it's exciting to see this actually coming to fruition. It's something we've been working on for a couple of years. Had a little interruption with a thing called COVID, but we're as I said, we opened last week in the hopefully temporary facility.
And I agree with you, County Executive. It is exciting news, and certainly it's time. I hope some of the folks on our Criminal Justice Subcommittee also take great pride in this, right? It's work you've talked about and a need you expressed time and time again. And we all know that there is this need, not just in our community, but beyond. So particularly if India or folks on your subcommittee have questions or response to this particular subject, they would be welcomed.
Yeah, I'm happy to respond now, or if somebody wants to, call later another time, that's fine too.
Okay, well, first, congratulations, and thank you for pursuing and continuing to move this forward. And as that detention center, and we begin to look at how effective it is, we'll be, paying more attention, but looking at how we can divert some of the issues that we've had over time in our community. So thank you for the effort to continue this work.
Thank you, India. And I think we're going to be seeing you and talking more to you about it in the next week or two or three, whatever it is. I see you on the calendar. I should also mention that now I think I may have lost it. The diversion program is a pre-arrest program. The design is to have people avoid getting a criminal record. But we also now are also doing something called central booking. Central booking is basically a belt and suspenders with the diversion program. Once somebody is arrested and comes, sometimes that can take, days or even weeks before they get to see a judge. And during that time, they're in jail. The central booking gets them before a judge in hopefully 24 hours and gets them an attorney within 24 hours. And again, it's another opportunity to divert people out of the program early on. So while the diversion program, the diversion center is primarily pre-arrest, we will have the option of including people who are picked up later post-arrest.
Chair Taylor had a question or two questions. Thank you again, County Executive Budish. The two questions that I had were, one, how will we measure equity in terms of who actually gets access to diversion, the racial makeup of those that end up in the system? I know with other similar types of diversion programs through the court, we've seen, unfortunately, a lack of equity in terms of who ends up on the mental health docket or drug docket and things like that. So that's first question. Second is, are any resources potentially available from some of the settlements that the county sought around the opioid crisis for funding of the diversion center?
Yeah, so let me take the second question first. The cost of the diversion center to redo the building at the old juvenile detention center is about a $20 million project. And then the ongoing operational costs are $8 million a year. We've got the contract signed. We know what everything costs at this point. The hope is that we can raise a significant amount of the $20 million to help with the building changes. Rick Chiricosta, from the CEO of Medical Mutual, has agreed to go out with me to try to raise funds, and we've been going out and talking to people. And as I said, the responses have been good. The $8 million a year is another big number. And for that, I have gotten tentative agreement from the council president that they will be open to my approach to use the opioid funds for that for at least the next 5 years.
Thank you. And then the first question?
Oh, I'm sorry. Now I forgot. What was the first question? Oh, the way we
measuring equity, the racial makeup of who ends up. Thank you.
Yeah, data is a big part of this. We have our folks internally that are going to be monitoring everything, basically. In fact, one of the reasons why we decided to open immediately or as soon as possible in the temporary site is so that we can start to gather data and see what works and see what doesn't work and which directions it's going and where we need to make changes so that when we go to the permanent facility, we'll be able to do it better.
Thank you. So do we have a specific race is collected anytime somebody's brought to the diversion center to be able to make sure we can ascertain the equity and who gets a chance to be there?
Yeah, my understanding is that all that data will be collected.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I see others are off mute. Any other questions for the county executive on this topic?
Good afternoon, County Executive. This is Habiba Grimes. I think the opening remarks really, for me, highlight that community members have to first be safely brought into custody, so to speak. That first encounter with police can be the deadliest. And I'm curious what additional strategies are intended with local municipalities to ensure that encounters don't turn deadly before community members can gain access to the diversion center.
Well, let me answer that two ways. One is that council, our county council, I forget whether it was last summer or fall, did adopt a program to provide training for police all over the county with respect to how to handle, for lack of a better term, these crises situations that arise, how to minimize force unless absolutely necessary, those sorts of things. So that has been adopted. Tri-C is running that program, and I can't give you a report at this moment on how it's working, but I think it's been up and running for a while. That's different than our program, which is designed to identify who would be appropriate for the diversion program, and emergency stabilization is part of that. Again, we're focused on people who have mental health and addiction issues, and frontline services, which deals with people in those circumstances all the time, is providing the immediate 24/7 counseling. So, I'm hopeful that a number of the kinds of situations that were described earlier, will be able to be averted by this program.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? County Executive, anything else you want to report on at this point?
There's a lot of things we're doing, but I don't want to take up your whole meeting, so I'll step back at this.
Let me say, I think in the last meeting, it may have been Mr. Cavanis who asked about someone asked, I don't want to get the wrong attribution, but someone asked the question about the CARES money and how it was spent. So we got a bit of a tally of those. Then the next question, of course, the follow-on was around rescue. So we know that a lot of individuals are trying to instruct you how to spend the money. You've got your own internal conversations happening as well. So the request, just once again, is if we can help, or if you can keep us apprised of where those activities are going, because as we've all described, this is a once in a generation opportunity to make some significant and lasting change. We would welcome that conversation, plus the updates when and where appropriate.
You mentioned the money we're getting from the federal government. Just I forget whether it was Monday or last Friday, but just in the last few days, we announced adding more funds to our eviction protection program. So last year and then earlier this year, we twice put in funds into a rental program for renters to help them with past due rent so they don't get evicted. The amount we've put in was $20 million. We just added another 10. And that'll bring us to somewhere around 8,000 renters that we'll have been able to keep in their homes. And I don't have the statistics in front of me, but the majority of those were minorities. So I can tell you, what we do, is virtually everything right now. I shouldn't say everything. Much of what we're doing is designed to help with equity.
Thank you. Any other questions for the county executive? right. Well, thank you, sir. We do appreciate your time and the ongoing efforts, and of course your routine willingness to take our calls, even outside of this setting, have the kinds of conversations that are necessary to make yourself available, and of course to keep a keen eye on why this work is so important. So thank you. More to do, and we all recognize that, but appreciate everything that you and your staff do and continue to do. All right. We can.
Well, your initial report was a good roadmap, and we're looking forward to more guidance as you guys move forward.
Oh, we forgot. We have to do that again, don't we? Wow, we got work to come. We're looking forward to it. Thank you. Appreciate that. And thank you to everyone on the line, of course. Okay. All right. We will, Naila, we can move on to an update. And I don't have much of an update. It is a request, though, Clerk Byrd, of you and staff. It'd be interesting. We see the faces on this call. It'd be interesting for this group, I imagine, to know the analytics behind, right? If this is streamed, how many, in terms of viewership, are we getting? And certainly know that there were no public comments last time, but if in any way, and I don't want to put folks on the spot, that's why I'm not going to ask for an answer now, but it would be interesting to know what that viewership is, so that it can also inform our work as we think about this next report, because we want this in the hands of the community, of the citizens. And if we have to push information, certainly we will do just that through our communications committee and some other areas. So that's just a request as much as anything else, Clerk Byrd, going forward.
Sure, I will, in response, I will have a report out on that during our next meeting. I will get with IT and see if I can get those numbers with the IT department and get you that answer.
Thank you. Any questions of me before we move into the heart of this meeting, and I turn it back over to Clerk Byrd? All right, well, great. Thank you all once again for your tireless effort and participation in this process. The work continues, as you've heard me say many times, but I couldn't be prouder, and I know you're all proud as well of not only the comments, but the advances made. And we hear those routinely, not only in the county executive's report, but what we see and read and what we hear in the community, and those who consistently reach out to us asking for more of our time. Those we reach out to are always accepting of our calls. It tells you that we're not alone, of course, in believing that this work is of critical importance. So again, thank you to each and every one of you on the line. I'll turn it back over to you, Clerk Byrd.
Sure, thank you. We're going to move to the approval of the minutes. On April 19th, 2021, the minutes from the April 12th meeting were distributed for your review and comment. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Motion made by Member McShepherd. Is there a second?
Second.
I heard the second by Member Maccabee. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, please signify by saying yay.
Aye.
Aye or aye.
Yeah, aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. The minutes are accepted. Chair Taylor discussed the public comment procedure, so I'm going to move on and just give you a very, very quick update. As we talked about during the last meeting, there was an RFP issued for a countywide employee diversity and equity and inclusion training. Since our last meeting, Councilmember Maccabee, as well as Councilmember Contreras, graciously agreed to participate in the diversity, equity, and inclusion training RFP selection panel. 3 responses were received, and the selection process is currently in progress. Once the selection process is complete, the council members and/or I can provide further details. Are there any questions about anything that I've just said?
I would just invite the 2 members who are participating, if they have any thoughts as they go into the work, certainly give them an opportunity to express their thoughts.
I would just caution them with being careful about, I purposely left it vague just because of some confidentiality requirements.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about who responded in the context of those responses. Folks know that it's important, but any comments or thoughts in that respect from Janice or Marcia?
So on my end, it was an interesting process. So, it was great to be a part of that and, get a deeper understanding on the selection process when bids come in and the review of proposals and scoring and so forth. So just a good experience overall for me. I think there was just a general sense, the bulk of the folks that participated were county employees, but I think there was an overall sense of just disappointment on only getting 3 applicants to respond, knowing that there are a lot of local players that work in the space and would have been very qualified to do either part or the whole portion. So I think there were some recommendations made in the conclusion of the session on making sure that we are doing a good job at marketing such opportunities, and this is such an important contract and important task. So it was, it was difficult because of its significance to our work and the goal of the county. So to have 3 applicants, and again, just a little sense of disappointment on the outcome. Director Lockett was on the call, and she did state that there is a form for people that choose not to participate. However, I think when you don't want to participate, you don't necessarily respond to the form. So, it's nice that there's a form, but I don't really think it gets to the point on making sure that we're inclusive or getting feedback of folks that didn't submit. And if you didn't respond to the RFP, why? But that was my only reflection post participating. Happy to do it. So.
And thank you, Janice. I think that was sufficiently vague, as indicated by Clerk Byrd. Ms. Maccabee, any?
Yes,
great
Chair.
job, and thank you. Anything?
And Chair Taylor, my colleague Contreras actually captured a great deal of the experience very well on my behalf as well. The one thing I will give kudos to the county staff is the description of the project was very well stated. I think that at some point I might recommend, after the process is done and concluded, that we might benefit even from taking a look at the language around diversity and inclusion and equity that was called out in this document. It was very well done. So I certainly want to give kudos there. The facilitation of the process I thought was very smoothly done, and the right mid-course corrections in the process of how we were scoring and so forth were nimble and went very well and allowed the process to move through and made good use of people's time. So kudos to the staff and all that were involved in the process. And I too appreciated being able to represent CACE and be a part of that.
Great comments, and thank you both for your time, commitment to this, and the time that you will continue to deliver. Clerk Byrd, are you fine with? Okay, great. Let's back up for one moment. I wasn't certain if Ms. Nelson Moore wanted to, I know you're not completed with this statement around the disclaimer around public comments, but if there's anything you want to add, certainly feel free to do so. Again, if there's no update, that's fine as well, but just want to give you an opportunity to chime in if you'd like.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. I don't have any additional comments. However, I'm confident that we're very close to having the language that the case will be satisfied with. I will get back with Clerk Byrd as soon as practical to just make sure that it captures everything that your members want to be encapsulated in the statement, but I'm confident that we're very close.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, any comments at all? Please, Mr. McShepard.
Chairman Taylor, I just wanted to go back to a comment made by Ms. Contreras about the lack of responses. I am hopeful that, notwithstanding the fact that we've had just a few applicants for this, that we're not settling for the strongest of 3 very mediocre firms. And if that was the case, that there might be a process within the county to postpone or, push the timeline out a bit more to find appropriate, firms to do this work. Again, not asking you all to get into any particulars, but it's more of a question about county process. Sometimes you get lucky and there may be one really solid person or firm of the 3 that, and you just go forward. But I just hope we're not settling if that's the way some of the deciding individuals, considered?
I mean, in my opinion, the candidates that applied were qualified. They had put together teams, that met some part or some. I think that you could reply to the entire RFP or portions of it. And so I think that we definitely had the qualification side. It would have been nice to have more diversity in the types of firms that applied and specific to local. I feel very confident. I don't know how, member Maccabee feels, but I feel very confident with the firm that made it to the top in that selection process on having the ability to do that. I feel like there's also room and opportunity for co-creating some of that work, but definitely a strong team with the expertise to carry us in this journey and this process. So it wasn't so much about qualifications, but more so just having 3 applicants to review. And again, such important work, I think was more so what my comment related to.
I think that the Chair Taylor, the one idea that occurred to me as I was listening to those comments is that perhaps we might put more of an emphasis on inviting people to attend the bidders conference, because I think that attending the bidders conference increases the opportunity to increase the potential pool, and it also helps to get people to get their questions out, their concerns out, their thoughts, and so forth before they go into the actual process of responding. So that would be, sort of be, and it also gives you a chance to look at who you might partner with in the bidding process. So that would be my recommendation around being able to expand the pool. And I too agree that I think when you just look at score cut, I think we're comfortable.
The other thing I was going to add is sometimes, I feel like the folks that pay attention, like our typical vendors, right, at the county that just know the process, know kind of the recurring bid process to that point. But I think when we have something that's kind of like an outlier project like this, right, this is not the typical, and that's why the RFP was so important on really articulating the desire of the county and what types of trainings and the different subgroups that work will enable. But are there different ways to do outreach when we're doing proposals that are like this one of high significance, of a profile? It's not business as usual at the county when you're putting out an RFP of this size and of this scale. So just what can we do, or just learning what's possible for marketing an RFP like that might be different than just our regular typical type of procurement process. Might be a great conversation to have with Director Lockett and others.
All right, great question and great feedback as well. As much as anything else, I've heard the marketing piece and how, because this is unique, we should perhaps do outreach, pull individuals into the process rather than simply push out an RFP, so that we get kind of, we're not making, preliminary decisions. We're just broadening the pool so that we can get the right mix at the table to begin with, because there perhaps might be partnership opportunities. So if permissible, if permitted, I think those are great suggestions. So thank you. And once again, appreciate the work. Hey, look, in every subcommittee, this work around training was mentioned in some form or another. So when Janice and Marcia talk about the importance of the work, it was important to everyone on this call on some level. So I think it is getting the kind of attention that it deserves. And I think the comments around what might be an improved practice at some point in the future for something similar is a comment and a conversation worth having. So thank you, both of you, and to everyone else who will at some point review, participate, or make some judgment around how this ultimately shakes out. So thank you. Clerk Bird, we can move on.
Certainly, I'm going to move on and just give you a very brief update about the County Department of Equity and Inclusion. An ordinance establishing a Department of Equity and Inclusion was introduced to County Council on April 13th of this year. The department would focus on equity-related issues in contracting, employee training, and other county business. The existing Office of Procurement and Diversity would be dissolved, and in its place would be the Department of Equity and Inclusion and a Department of Purchasing. The ordinance was referred to two committees, the Public Works Committee as well as the Human Resources Committee. On May 4th, 2021, the Human Resources Committee voted in support of the legislation with sponsor support from Council members Brown, Jones, Conwell, and Sweeney. And the following day, on May 5th, 2021, the Public Works Committee voted in support of the legislation with Council members Conwell and Sweeney adding their names in support of it. The legislation will go to the full council for second reading during tomorrow's council meeting. So that's just a brief update on where we're at with that. I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments.
I would simply say, certainly this is work being done by the county executive and the county, but in so many ways, this council, the Citizens Advisory Council, has been an accelerant, right, for a lot of this work. It was mentioned, Mr. McShepard, in your committee reports as sort of a need to be that ombuds person or someone who was in customer service, if you will, for equity in the county was mentioned a few times. So proud of the fact that we've been an accelerant for so many of the activities, not necessarily the cause because this work was already started, but we've moved it along at a pace which I think will benefit the citizens of this community. So thank you, County Executive and staff, but also thank you to CACE members for this work. This is a big deal in a lot of ways, and we will work with you to get it right.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to ask from a timing perspective, what happens after the second reading or tomorrow? Does it go for a third reading or does it go to the floor or what happens?
It will go for a third reading and then a vote for the floor. So it'll probably, and County Executive, please correct me if I'm mistaken, but in 2 weeks after tomorrow's council meeting, it'll have a third reading where it'll be voted, is my understanding. Armin, is that?
That was a thumbs up, Zoom thumbs up. So
okay,
that's affirmative, right? Okay.
Okay.
That was my thumb, Naila.
Okay. There you go. Thank you. Chair, should I move on?
Please.
I'm going to move on and talk a little bit about the Cuyahoga County Equity Commission. As you may recall, Cuyahoga County has an internal equity commission which meets monthly. I'm just going to take a few moments to provide an update from their last monthly meeting, which was held on April 15th, 2021. To remind you, the Equity Commission members include representatives from the Department of Public Safety, Department of Development, Department of Health and Human Services, Human Resources, and Procurement and Diversity. During the meetings, each member provided updates on their agency's equity efforts. The Department of Health and Human Services shared that Dr. Leon Harris, who some of you met when we interviewed him or may just know otherwise, he was recently promoted and is now the agency's assistant director. Dr. Harris had been acting in the role for the past year, but in this assistant director position, he will focus on racial equity and inclusion work within the Health and Human Services bandwidth. There was also discussion regarding the diversity, equity, and inclusion RFP selection committee and what we talked about earlier. Kari Morales, the program manager of equity and economic development, proposed a plan to distribute the GARE employment survey to county employees in January of 2022. She shared the Equity Commission's working group met with Milwaukee County regarding their equity efforts, and they recommended that we, Cuyahoga County, deploy the GARE survey because it could provide a baseline of employee information that can be compared to responses across the nation. The GARE employee provided a presentation on the survey at the May 6, 2021 Equity Commission Working Group, and members of my staff attended the meeting. Key takeaways included that the survey tool is a standardized survey given to take the pulse of where people are and sort of serve as that baseline to engage and advance efforts towards racial equity. GARE will send the survey, they tabulate the results, and they provide us with a summary. The survey is meant to be administered every other year to display progress over time. The Equity Commission during their meeting voted unanimously in favor of moving forward with distributing the survey to employees in January. That's the update from that meeting. Are there any thoughts or questions or discussion? Okay. Chair, should I move on?
Yes.
We're going to get into the subcommittee reports now. So I'll turn to the subcommittee chairs to provide their updates. Chair Pierce Lee, would you like to go first and provide an update, please?
Yes, thank you, Clerk. The Criminal Justice Subcommittee continues to schedule meetings with various partners and continue to look at research. One of the areas that I think is going to be critically important, and this has come up time and time again as it relates to not only the Diversion Center, but others, is around this juvenile detention area, which I know has been a big issue. On Friday, we had the opportunity to meet with Selma Mata, who is the supervisor from the Office of Public Defender's Office in the Juvenile Division, as well as Leah Winsberg, who is the Ohio staff attorney for the Children's Law Center. And I have to say that I left with many emotions about the current system here in Cuyahoga County and how our youth are detained and this whole issue around bindovers of our youth. But more specifically, looking into the data that supports the racial disparities in our current system. So our committee will continue to do a deeper dive into this work and having more conversations with those that are working within the system and outside the system to really understand why we are detaining our youth and not getting hearings quicker, and the fact that youth could be sitting in detention for a year that first are not guilty and have low-level offenses, and then just turned out on the street. And what is the impact from a human capacity issue that's having on our youth that eventually leads them to the adult system? So we're going to do a deeper dive into this work, into the research, continuing the conversations. We will be meeting soon to look at the information we have thus far. And again, specifically looking at the disparities between Black and Brown youth versus white with similar offenses. This will also lead our team to look into the bail reform system and how bail and bonds are set, not only in the youth system, but in the adult system, that people can't afford to pay, that leads to loss of jobs, loss of families, you know, all the social impacts. And we will be working very hard to work with the system to figure out what we can do about this. It's just unacceptable. And, you know, I can't say more than that right now, but, you know, if we want to change how our youth are treated, if we want to change how the systems are treated, we got to start with our youth. And I know we've heard this from others that work in this space, but we will be getting together shortly to begin to delve even deeper into this issue. And I don't know if Reverend Chalker, you know, Reverend a Rabbi, the Rabbi Caruso isn't on today. If you want to add a few comments to what we learned on Friday.
India, just to affirm what you have said so powerfully and well, it is unacceptable is a kind, well, it's not kind, but it's a bland word for how awful it is. And it just is beyond understanding how we've gotten to this point without serious previous objection. It's just not something we can tolerate any longer. It must be done.
Thank you, Reverend. But again, continuing with the other work, I think this is the place that we're going to put a lot of our effort in over the next couple of months. And again, talking to many others in this space and then getting back to understand how the system works. And we've heard how broken it is, and there's different opinions from some of the judges, some of the people that work in the system about how this is done. But again, we can no longer just sit back and let this exist. That's the end of my report.
It's quite a report. I'm sorry.
Chair,
One, please.
Chair Taylor, to Committee Chair Lee, thank you for your report. And clearly, having done some diversion work with juvenile justice in previous years, one of the things that is so clear, especially given the policing issues that we have now, if we don't intervene at that level, we're never going to solve for the issue that we're having in police reform and community policing and increasing the relationships between our younger folks and policing. So it has consequences for the now and the future. That this is very important that we get a handle on this.
Okay, well, thank you to the entire committee. Thank you, Member Mockaby, for your comments as well. We all know this right in our souls, that it's important that we deal with this. It's been talked about, obviously, generationally, for generations, but it seems like so many things, the time to act in a meaningful way is now. So thank you for that report. Clerk Byrd, if you want to call on the next committee chair, or if you.
Certainly. Subcommittee Chair Gullett, would you like to provide an update on your committee's work?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'd like to pick up where India left off and begin talking about youth. A group of the chairs and several other CACE committee members met with the head of DCSF and the advisory board, which I mentioned at our last meeting. And it was determined that probably one of the best follow-ups might be within the Health and Healthcare Subcommittee. And so as part of that, I had a chance to talk with the head of HHS for the county, and there's a significant interest in addressing, further understanding, and then addressing the overrepresentation of Black youth and Black families in the DCSF system. And why is that the case? And part of it is the referrals into the system, and that involves, in large part, referrals from health systems, which disproportionately refer in families of color through various mechanisms, also other mandated reporters. So there are a lot of complexities to this piece, but we've begun to unpack that. And I think that speaks to an even earlier issue than what India was talking about, and they're inextricably linked. And it is really not, it is just, we cannot stand by and let the system continue to work the way it works. And we cannot continue to allow the overrepresentation of Black families in the system that then involves their parents being part of the criminal justice system. It separates families and leads to lots of trauma and many other issues. There clearly are issues of structural racism in the way the system works. And it's not just this system, there are many systems, but we're beginning to see the intersectionality between the systems. So in the interim month, I've been looking at really trying to understand the system and working with the HHS team and working with the DCSF team and advisory board about what those next steps look like. One other thing I think this highlights for us is that every time we talk to somebody else, we do another interview. And in our Health and Healthcare Subcommittee, we had a very robust list of interviewees in 2021, which we'll continue working down. But there are interviews that provide situational awareness, provide understanding of context. And then there are interviews that provide a visceral understanding of what's happening that necessitates immediate action. And there are a lot of pieces to this, and there needs to be action at a lot of levels. So one of the things as a subcommittee chair that I'm grappling with is getting all and as much information as we possibly can, and then figuring out where and when to address the issues that arise. And many of these issues cross the subcommittees. And so it's thinking about how that works. And that's a lot of what I think Dr. Hovman is able to help us with and what he'll speak about later. But I wanted to just highlight that as it's continuing to be an issue that I, every time we do an interview or we have another report out, it's clear that these issues are linked. The other thing I wanted to update on is Much of the work of the county around health is tied to our county health assessment and improvement planning process. And we're on 3-year cycles. We used to be on 5-year cycles, and this is mandated by public health departments, and it's required of the not-for-profit hospitals. And in 2019, everyone came together, hospitals, health systems, and some community organizations, to do an assessment together, which was the first of its kind in this community. This is also where in 2015, we declared eliminating structural racism as the first and most important key priority to improving the health of the community. So this next cycle is being planned now, and COVID gave us a bit of a pause for about 6 or 9 months, but those meetings are now occurring monthly. And of course, anyone in the CACE in other subcommittees is also welcome to join us, but this is a representation from all the hospitals, health departments, social agencies, and others who are coming together to design how data will be collected and what the plan will be for the next 3-year cycle. So this touches all of the other subcommittees, looking at community conditions, economic opportunity, criminal justice. So those pieces are happening, and Dr. Hoffman will speak a little bit later about some of the group model building sessions which have expanded in relation to the map, which we have shared at various other CACE meetings. But those group model building sessions are part of this community health improvement plan and the eliminating structural racism priority, which we're now 6 years into addressing and actually getting at multi-level interventions. Very relevant to this committee, but I wanted to make clear the link to the work that's happening with all of those individuals, and that you all are welcome to those meetings as well. So please just email me if you want to join those. And then finally, well, let me also say that that is also linked to the plan at the state level for the Ohio State Health Improvement Plan. So there are issues of equity which are layered into the state health improvement plan, which we at the local level need to be addressing. And so you will see this summer in July, we will have yet another report from that work group on how we're linking to the state. But I will continue to make sure that our subcommittee and this full group understand how those issues of racial equity are being addressed at the local level that link to the state. And that also has implications for funding in the public health sphere. And it's just really important for us to be explicit about that. Finally, in the first quarter of this year, a number of us came together to apply for a national grant. As we all know, a lot of this work requires finances, and in some cases, the government is able to apply for those, and in other cases, as in this one, this government was excluded as an applicant. So 57 different partners came together to apply for the W.K. Kellogg Racial Equity 2030 application, and many of you on the CACE committee were part of those partners. We passed the administrative review. We have just completed peer review, which involved us reviewing other applicants across the world. And we are moving into expert panel review. That would enable us to have a $1 million planning grant between 2021 and 2022 if we were awarded that, and then subsequently have an opportunity to apply for up to $20 million for the next 9 years to address racial equity in this community. Obviously, a lot of competition. It's an international application, but I wanted to just highlight where we were in that process. And I talked with Chair Taylor about bringing that up at this meeting today, so you are all aware where we're at. And I'll continue to keep you and the public aware of the process there. That concludes my update.
Once again, a great update. Thank you, Dr. Gullett. Any questions on any of those three components? Exciting news all around. And I know every committee, and we'll hear the same thing from Mr. Cavanis and Mr. McShepard, but every committee is in need of more members, right? There's just a small group of us, but let's try to commingle as best we can because everybody is strapped. And you'll hear from me in just a moment what the expectations are from the subcommittees and the committees around this next report. And it won't be easy for me to say, but I don't believe it'll be that daunting this time around. We will try to manage not only time, but the volume of the output. All right, next, unless there are questions of Heidi. Layla?
Okay, next up is Subcommittee Chair McShepard. Can you provide an update on your subcommittee's work, please?
Sure, Layla. I just wanted to thank India and Dr. Gullett for for those wonderful presentations. I was sort of wondering if we were to run a query, how many kids that show up in the DCFS system also wind up in the juvenile justice system. I bet that would be a fascinating data dump that might speak to a lot of what we all are wrestling with. But our Equitable Quality of Life Subcommittee, we've been quite busy. We are excited about the fact that we might be moving to possible legislation with the county as it relates to pay to stay. Pay to stay has passed in a few local communities, most recently Lakewood. And this is legislation that allows individuals to, if they're behind in their rent and they can make up the payment before they actually have their court hearing, they would be allowed to stay in their units versus being put on the street by the landlord. And that's something that we've heard from a lot of housing organizations as a critical way to ensure that affordable housing remains a viable, resource. So a couple of weeks ago, had a meeting with Attorney Greg Huth, who I think might be listening, and one of his colleagues from County Law Department to talk about this particular legislation and what might be necessary to at least put something in draft form to be hopefully moved along to County Council for consideration. I know he's working on that, and if and when that is ready for prime time, I'll be sure to let all of you know, and perhaps we can get something done there. Relatedly, it was brought to our attention by the Legal Aid Society that there's something worth looking into that's known as eviction record sealing. A lot of individuals that have been evicted face, pretty harsh evaluation when they go and try to move to another place, and a landlord will say, well, you've been evicted, so I won't even consider allowing you to move here. So it's sort of an expungement type situation where some communities, as a best practice, have introduced the idea of eviction record sealing. And Legal Aid Society wants to share more about that process with us for our consideration. So we will be meeting with them May 19th to learn more about that. And obviously we'll bring that back to this body for further discussion. Tomorrow, we'll be meeting with Mike Foley from the Department of Sustainability to talk about a few things. And in a couple of weeks, we'll be meeting with Mark McDermott from the Enterprise Foundation to continue discussing various matters as it relates to housing, which really is just a big topical area, but something that really plays into quality of life. So that's really all I have to report at this time, unless there might be questions.
Randy, Subcommittee Chair, do you want to talk a little bit about the movement we made regarding source of income protection and possible legislation there as well?
Source of income. Did we get a report? Did I get those reverse source of income and pay to stay? Source of income was the one that they were also going to go and explore, right? That's another area that we're looking into. Nyla, I don't know if you remember there was a possible legal hiccup in that they were going to look into. Did we find out anything?
Yeah, so the legal hiccup was actually in the pay to stay, and we've been researching that myself and the law department, and the source of income one, which is the protection for what's commonly known as sort of Section 8 vouchers. And obviously those have a huge effect on the Black and brown population, especially single women, Black women, we've learned. And so the county is, because of Chair McShepard's role and his leadership, and along with Armin's vision, is looking forward to introducing legislation regarding source of income protection with council. So Law Director Huth has been working on that, and we've gotten a draft together. So that's really something great that I think Randy's committee has spearheaded.
Thank you, Clerk Byrd. So I did get those reversed. The source of income is ready for prime time. The pay to stay, we're working through, but hopefully those will be two different pieces of legislation that we can push through and actually see change come to fruition. So pretty exciting stuff.
Couldn't agree more. Pretty exciting stuff. And things get reversed all the time, Mr. McShepard, so I wouldn't worry about it. We got it right ultimately. So, but that's just tremendous. Again, I'm so impressed with all the activity in the various committees and the progress being made. So thank you. Any other questions for that subcommittee? All right, the final subcommittee report, Ms. Byrd.
Yes. Chair Cavanis, you're up.
Thank you, Clerk Byrd. Good afternoon. Not much to report from the Economic Opportunity Subcommittee. Just working through our working plan for the year. Just as a reminder, really starting out, with the procurement recommendation and moving along to really focusing on workforce and strategic partnership with other entities across the county. And I would say that we're at a point where we're considering what focusing on education looks like through the racial equity lens looks like. I had a one-on-one with Chief Carroll a couple of weeks ago, and I think that's a first step to really thinking about how does the county play in the education space. They currently are involved and support many different initiatives across the county. During the conversation, there was thoughts about, how do, maybe do we develop an education strategy across the county? I don't know if one really exists that the county really has. I mean, there's probably other entities, nonprofits that have developed some strategy around education, but I think a county-wide education strategy and how the county can efficiently deploy its dollars for a specific purpose with, targeted outcomes could be beneficial, I think, over time. But there's a lot of players in the space, and I think right now we're just trying to get a handle of who's all playing in the space, how is the county supporting these programs, and how can we as a committee and as a group provide some recommendations and thoughts in this area. And obviously Habiba is probably our in-house expert in this area. So she's going to be really critical to that conversation. Some other things that were discussed were certainly around the second round of federal support, and maybe thoughts around how we can, as Chair Taylor said, provide our thoughts on how those dollars are deployed, as well as knowing the city of Cleveland's going to get some dollars. Is there a way to partner in really maximizing those resources that can impact the community? So, that's sort of where things stand, and hopefully we can start moving forward accordingly with some of those efforts that I just talked about. I don't know if anyone else has any comments on our committee. I know we haven't gotten together for a while, but everyone's busy, so.
That's about to change.
Chair Cavanis, I would just like to add that as a result of your last comment and as a result of a desire that's been expressed that we're looking to meet very quickly from Chair Taylor is I will share with this group that on the racism as a public health crisis collaboration at the city, we are embarking on a budget to pillar activity, looking at recommendations in each of our pillars that would move that pillar from racial inequity towards racial equity. So we're engaging some steering committee members from the community, and as we complete that work, as you mentioned, Committee Chair Cavanis, is there some room to look at how do the mosaics of those investments, kind of come together from the county side and the city side opportunities? We'll be happy to share that with you. We expect within the next 3 weeks or so, we'll have that completed and be ready to share.
Update. Okay, any other questions? Thank you for that, Marsha. Any other questions for Chairperson Cavanis? All right, thank you. Ms. Byrd, the final subcommittee.
So I'm not sure, Chair Grimes, do you have anything to report on the communications subcommittee at this time, or?
I'm just confirming for the council that I did say yes. When we were last together, I was asked to contemplate chairing the subcommittee. I have agreed to step into that role. We will need to convene. We also are in need of members, but I will tell you that one of the things that I'm excited about that did move forward since our last meeting was a conversation around the youth toolkit. And I'm so just grateful for the dialogue today about youth. And refining that language in that youth toolkit so that it is accessible to young people across all the different ranges of abilities that we want to see engaged with this work and this conversation. So I'm looking forward to that finished product. I have some folks out in the community kind of waiting. Happy to vet that product and also to share it and use it with their partner agencies.
Look, Byrd, I was confident that our subcommittee communications chair wouldn't be left speechless or without anything to say. So you certainly delivered. Thank you very much. And we share in your excitement, Habiba. So we're grateful that you said yes, and that we know there's work to do and good work as outcomes as well. So thank you so very much.
And Chair Grimes, I will have someone from my staff reach out to you and obviously talk to you about how we can partner and what we can do here at the county to be helpful with communications and Devin, et cetera, to do all that we can to support you as I promised.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm confident that we'll figure this all out.
Let me just quickly say on this update on the semi-annual report, while we don't believe we have a date certain by which this report has to be delivered to the county executive and the county council, we certainly would look to midsummer, let's say, for the release of this next report. And I recognize that I'm saying this on a live stream service, but the expectation for me is not the same, as I said, from a volume standpoint with the December report. I'm hoping the subcommittee chairs can summarize so much of what they've said today. I'm going to talk about the look ahead in about 3 pages or so, right? 3 as densely packed pages as you'd like, but we're not asking for volumes because this report will also provide the community with an understanding, an updated understanding of from the dialogues we all had with one another last fall, some major themes. It will also tell the tale of the work done by Cuyahoga County, the county executive, in terms of progress made around executive orders and some of the other things you've heard today. Those will be reduced to writing. So a lot of this is good news based upon what we've already done. We certainly want to take the look forward. So for the committee chairs, we're simply asking for for you to provide a reconciliation, not only of the work done, but a view of the stuff that might be ahead in as broad a set of terms as you'd like. So that's the expectation we're creating for one another. So I would say, yes, the committees will have to reheat, right, in terms of activity, but it won't be the same pace. Now, the bad news is that pace will restart next fall for the larger report, which will hopefully capture even more detail, all right? Is everybody good with that? Because I wanted the committee members, I wanted all of the council to hear that as well.
Chairman Taylor, just a point of clarification, is that midsummer or mid-Indian summer? I didn't hear which.
That is fair. That is fair. And look, this is a committee, so we can decide as a collective, but that is a fair and funny point. All right. Great. Well, that's it from me. terms of the semi-annual report. More to come, certainly. All right, Naila, you want to?
Sure, I'll move us along. Dr. Hobbin, as you know, is continuing to meet with the subcommittees and discuss the topic area systems map. And I believe he's starting to map solutions and leverage points based on those discussions. Dr. Hobbin, I know you have an update to provide, so I'm going to yield the floor to you to give us that update.
Thank you. And I'll be very brief. So this is just an overview of where we are in terms of the plan, and thinking about what's actually being implemented, being a simulation, thinking of this as an implementation roadmap, thinking that a lot of things are already happening and are in motion, and this is a way of thinking through different scenarios. Heidi mentioned the ongoing work we have from the cross-sector innovations initiative. This is the large system map. We are now doing a series of smaller group model building workshops in each of these areas. We've completed 2, we'll have some more. So these are small sessions focusing on specific areas like education, economic opportunity, perspective transformation, and so on. And initially they were set up to be just one session, but there's enough interest to have a deeper dive in each of these. And then I just wanted to bring to attention this paper on legal design. I had shared this with Ms. Laura Black on last Monday. It's an interesting idea. It's in my experience in terms of having worked and done work on systems. We talked a number of different topics today that talk about different kinds of legal reform and change. This is an approach that actually struck me as pretty innovative. But the other piece of this is, in particular, there are resources here in the community for actually being able to do this and think through what some of the consequences and unintended consequences might be, and have something that's more design driven. The emphasis here being not just improving a system, but really changing what it means either to be in a system or not in a system. So I just wanted to bring this to the council's attention. I don't know if there's any questions folks have.
Peter, I just wanted to add, can you just speak for a minute about the other small group model building team that's been meeting that isn't explicitly referenced on the map around trauma and racial healing?
Yeah, we have a group. There's part of the initial map had racial trauma and healing, and that was sitting out on the edge there. But we know that this is implicated in many different. This has all kinds of implications in terms of larger system map. So we've had one meeting so far. We'll have another meeting pretty soon. That'll basically move racial trauma and racial healing into the center of the map, just because of the implications. So this will get reorganized.
Peter, are you concluded?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? I know it's all perfectly clear to everyone now what we're trying to accomplish, but this work, as we've said amongst ourselves, is important. This component to it is important, especially if we're going to leave sort of a lasting roadmap, if you will, to the community. So thank you, Dr. Hoffman, for your continued involvement in this process. And we know this work goes well beyond what we're doing, but we have taken ownership, if you will, over this part of it for our purposes, and we're grateful that you've lent your expertise to the entire exercise. All right. Ayla, we have one more thing. Really?
Sure. Yep. So just prior to concluding today's meeting, I'd like to provide an update on Laura and my continued effort to utilize the county's GARE membership. As I've stated before, Laura and I are participating in the monthly membership meetings as well as the regional drop-in hours. The April monthly membership meeting included a presentation by Benoit Jacob, who is a PhD and author of the leading edge research report, Governing for Racial Equity, Implementing an Equity Lens in Local Government. Dr. Jacob has produced research on how local government across the country are meeting the challenges of adapting a racial equity lens to day-to-day operations and effectively building infrastructures for change. I will distribute his report to all of the members following the meeting today. Dr. Jacobs' comments during his presentation focused on how local government has a strong role in building equity. Following his presentation, the audience was provided an opportunity to ask questions. Dr. Jacobs' answers touched upon the following points: how his study detailed the importance of providing data to present an issue, but data can only take you but so far. There's a need for a qualitative narrative to support that data. He talked about how budgeting decisions impact equity. He discussed the need to alter mindsets to make change and the need to have places to show impact. And it also talked about the need for community engagement in developing equity plans and the need for embedding an equity lens across the government structure. My staff also attended the GARE monthly membership call, which provides members an opportunity to discuss issues and ask questions. The meeting was held the week of the Chauvin verdict, and discussions focused on how to check in with coworkers and reflect upon that event. There was also a discussion regarding training opportunities by GARE. The GARE representatives shared training will go on a pause in early summer so that GARE staff can review the curriculum. The GARE annual conference is scheduled for next week, May 19th through the 21st. The 3-day event will include presenters and breakout sessions regarding equity-related topics. Laura and I are both attending, and of course, I will provide an update on the presentations during our next meeting. Please let me know, do you have any questions on anything I've just discussed?
Naila, at the risk of putting you on the spot with, I think the county executive is still on the line, so your boss in some way.
Then don't do it.
Well, I'm going to do it anyway. What do you think is going to happen next? You mentioned that he said there are 3 qualities, right? Or 3 components: the data, then which leads to this quantitative narrative, the budget, and how it affects equity, and then the community engagement. From your perspective, you've been living this with us as a part of the team for these many months now. How does the work of CACE, in a candid way, you believe, stack up against these criteria that were mentioned in his comments and report?
I think that the work of the CACE stacks up very nicely against what was mentioned in his report. I think you have to consider that the work of the CACE, and Chair Taylor, you and I have discussed this at length, and also we brought it up with others that we met with. We've really been doing this work for a very short amount of time. It has been less than a year since we've been doing it. But I think we've looked at all of the things that he provided as the key points. I mean, the one thing that I would say, if I'm, in total honesty, is the data. We haven't done a lot in terms of gathering data and having a qualitative narrative to support the data. I think we did some of it with our community conversations and with Dean Englund, but I think that's an area we could look to do better on. But I think all of the others, I think we are doing the work in a good space, and we're doing what experts in this space, I think, are saying that we should be doing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and it wound up being a softball, but I thought I'd, create a little bit of going in.
Armin, did you catch it? I got a triple.
Very good. Any questions, Clerk Byrd, or anything else before we talk about next meeting and adjourn? Just thoughts from the council over anything today or things that might be on your mind.
There's one thing on my mind, Chairman Taylor, that goes back to communications, and I'm certainly going to let Chairwoman Grimes settle into her new role. But it's been on my mind that as we unravel the work that we're doing and start to see some of the wins around the very issues that all the subcommittees talked about, pending legislation, new departments being established, it just seems that we should be a bit more public facing. I don't know if it's occasional community forums where maybe you as the chairman and the county executive could speak to some of the things that we're doing. I mean, I would just hope that we don't sort of tuck all of this into an annual report and ask the community at large to sort of read it and catch up on your own. These issues are issues that people are talking about every day, that people care about. It's very serious in terms of what's happening in our country and in our county. And I just think that it would behoove us to find a way to occasionally go public, so to speak, because we do have a good story to tell, and we shouldn't be afraid if people have additional critiques or questions or suggestions for how we continue to stay the course. So, something that we can all chew on and talk about at another time, but it just seems to me that it would really be a powerful thing for the community to see us sort of stand up tall and sort of talk about the work that we're doing and give them updates, and then also maybe to hear a little bit about what they might want to say about some of it. So just a thought, Mr. Chairman.
Any response?
I'd like to just offer agreement. And I think that the City Club forums have been helpful, but if there are other strategies that help us to reach a broader cross-section of the community so that there is a deeper understanding for this work and how it's intended to impact the lives of Cuyahoga County's residents really directly and the region as a whole, I think that would be a wise thing for us to do.
I'm in
I'll throw in my
go ahead,
2
please.
cents
Go ahead.
on that. Is I agree 100% or more with Randall's suggestion. So much of what this committee's doing and what the county does, just gets lost. And unfortunately, some of them, it's hard to break through the media these days because especially with positive things, which is what this group is doing. If it was negative, you'd be on the front page every day. It's not a problem, but positive stuff is much harder. So any suggestions you have, anything you can do to get out there and let people know what you're doing, I support that completely.
Yeah,
I don't have the answer, but I support it.
Well, yeah, we don't have, but there's concurrence from me as well. So, Habiba, we will certainly reach out with the aid of the county, reach out to our media friends. Certainly, you're right around the City Club and their generosity with respect to allowing us to be on forums. I'd say, to Randall's point, if we could come up with a quarterly, maybe at minimum, but a quarterly forum at which all of you, not just me, but all of you can have an opportunity to talk about the work of your subcommittees or a few subcommittees, or you can speak for the entire effort. I think that's the kind of citizens outreach, in addition to the common ground conversations, that we should have. We will find out soon enough if there's interest, but I'm willing to bet that there will be an ongoing level of interest by a number of parties that say that they want to hear. And hopefully this will wane over time. Hopefully that interest over whatever period does wane, because progress is being made and now they have expectations of not just us, but the work of the county and themselves. So I'm all for it, and I am in complete agreement.
How about, Chairman, how about the county council itself? Have they expressed any comment about I just maybe I'm not aware of it, but has the county council expressed an awareness of what our CACE group has been doing and their reaction to our first report in terms of how it fit in with their desire to establish such a group as this? Has there been any comment like that at all, or discussion?
Naila, or the county, or Laura, county executive, any?
Sure. Reverend, as you probably will recall, I believe Chair Taylor did present to County Council after we did our first report. So there was an interest in that. I obviously cannot speak for the council, but I can make an outreach to Councilwoman Chantel Brown's committee, which is the Human Resources Committee, as well as the other committee, to see if there would be an interest if we want to go talk in front of them. I think they would be willing. I know that council staff is listening to the live stream. So council staff, if I'm speaking out of turn, please text me and tell me. But those would be my thoughts. County Executive, I don't know if you have a different opinion.
I learned a long time ago not to try to speak for council, but I do see Levine is on the call, and she might have a comment on that if she's able to. There, she unmuted.
Hi, I'm here. Council is very grateful for all of the work that's been done so far, and they're always open to having presentations before them. So you are definitely welcome to schedule that at any point in time. Chantel Brown has been very vocal, as well as Council President Pernell Jones in these efforts, and they'll continue to be very vocal, as well as Councilman Dale Miller, who also did a presentation before our committee. I believe it was about the last committee meeting. I think he did a presentation. So I think all of our council members are very in tune to what's going on. They're very excited to see the work that continues to come out of this committee. They want to see the direction that it goes, and also how the differences that we can make within, not only within the county, but also within our community. So I hope that answers your question, but we are always open for any feedback, any presentation, any vocalization that you have or would like to bring forth to them. We're definitely open and want to continue to foster that relationship. Thank you.
Thank you, Levine, and thankfully I didn't misspeak. So I was like, phew, thank goodness, okay.
Oh, not at all, not at all.
Taylor, I just wanted to add one more thing. I agree with everything that's been said about increasing engagement with those in our community, making sure people have an opportunity to speak into the work and the priorities of the case, but also hearing about what we're doing and what the broader administration is doing. But recently, we also have attracted some national attention. The work of the case has now been recognized nationally by one of the folks at the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and American Hospital Association. And it came out of our community health improvement work. And I reached out to Chair Taylor and said, hey, would you be willing to speak at this forum? Because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just about the health improvement plan, but it was about this bigger declaration of racism as a public health crisis. And then what more importantly happens after that declaration. And so we had a chance to speak at this forum, and then we're just asked a week or so ago to speak at a national forum that's going to highlight this. We've been paired both times with Milwaukee, who's already been mentioned in this call before. And my hope is now that some national attention has been focused on the work of the case, that future opportunities will be able to engage everyone who's a part of the case and be able to speak about this work that's happening. So while I think it's critically important that we are engaging our own community first and foremost, it's also really, I think, important for us to take those opportunities that come to share this work on a bigger stage, so that maybe we can help other communities and we can learn from them as well. So Chair Taylor, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add, but I want to make sure that that was part of the discussion as well.
The only thing I'd add, Heidi, is thank you, right? You positioned us well for this national attention. I recognize I was just there to carry the water, but thank you so very much for getting us engaged to begin with. And it is having some resonance, it is making a difference, and folks are learning from us, but we're, of course, learning as well. But just one more reason to be proud of the work that we're all doing. And we're being sought out again because of Dr. Gullett in principal part, but everybody's reflected and everybody's present at these discussions because we're in this together. So thank you so very much.
I would just ask Dr. Gullett, or Heidi, I would ask if you could just let either myself or Laura know about these opportunities, because we could sort of partner with sort of the county communications department and get some traction around it. And I personally would love to see you in any forum I get educating me about things, as well as our chair, Eddie. So I would like to tune in if possible. And maybe if it's a cost, my boss will pay for my membership, and we put him on the spot right now to participate. So did you see him look up? He just looked up.
This health equity. Equity Summit is the faculty in this summit are remarkable. I'm very excited about it, and it comes at the cost of free. So I'll send you the registration link and you can send it to the whole case.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll pay free anytime.
Thank you too, boss.
Sounds like a Geico commercial.
Right. I will move on. As you all are aware, we proposed tentative dates for meetings throughout 2021 and 2022. So the meetings will generally take place on the second Monday of the month, but they're subject to change, obviously, due to conflicts. But right now, the next meeting is scheduled for June 14th, 2021 from 1:30 to 3:30.
And after that, we will, maybe after that or the next one, we will lengthen the time between meetings again. We've tried to do this monthly, just in the lead up to the summer, the midsummer Indian or otherwise report. So just an FYI there. Okay. Any other business? I'm sorry, please.
Nope, I'm sorry. I apologize. We were thinking the same thing.
Any other business from the Citizens Advisory Council on Equity? You have to use the full name every once in a while. Any other business?
Just have like an announcement. Is that
TSA. All right.
So on Friday, May 21st, we're actually going to have Director Lenora Lockett as we do a monthly webinar series called Business as Unusual, bringing resources to small business owners. And she'll be our speaker for this one, speaking about the legislation and the new efforts of the county work, including our work. So I want to invite everyone on the council, and it's open to everyone. I will send the information, the formal invite, through Naila and Laura to CAC and invite council and everybody, but it's an open forum for anyone to participate. So.
Sounds great, Janice. Thank you. And once I get it, I will distribute it. Awesome.
Okay, if there is no other business,
I will adjourn.
We are adjourned. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you
Have
all.
a wonderful and safe week.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.